sorry. Anyway, hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about my life. Like legit, guys. I'm gonna take it right back to the beginning, guys. All the way back into time. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it'd be fair to give you guys a little insight into my life before transitioning. I think it's, if it's a testimony that can help others, really decipher, what's true and what's not, or even like, really help others come to know Christ, um, then, I can't hold back. And I hope that, this video has an impact on you in some way, shape, or form. If you know that it will be beneficial for somebody else, please share it. Anyway, let's go back into time, guys. Boom. So I'm gonna break this down into three stages. I don't know what's with me in number three, but yeah, I'm gonna break this down into three stages. And the first stage that I want to explore is curiosity. Now, I was curious. I was a curious kid from a very young age, like from what I can remember. And I'm just speaking from what I can remember. From what I can remember, I've always been attracted to women, and that attraction started from quite young. Like when I moved to Jamaica, that's when I recognized that, I do feel some type of feeling towards the same sex. So, you know, even though I didn't explore it at the time over there, I knew that there was a deep rooted feeling of me being attracted to the same sex, um, beginning in Jamaica. And in Jamaica, recognized that everyone was quite promiscuous. Well, most of the people that I knew, we were all kind of promiscuous, in some way, shape, or form. And I also remember that I myself was quite promiscuous. I lost my virginity quite young, and it wasn't a nice experience. It wasn't a pretty experience. But one of the most prominent memories that I do have is, you know, um, that guy, who had like kind of been just just in my face, basically following me. He was about 25 at the time. I was 13. He kind of lured me into the back of a church, and yeah, um, yeah. I don't really need to explain anymore. It is kind of it's a tough one because I pushed it to the back of my mind. I didn't believe that that had anything to do with, like, me and my, curiosity towards the same sex. I don't think, and I still struggle to even believe that now. But I know that from that day forward, I had made a vow to myself to never treat women like how I was treated that day. Um, he tried to do things to me, and I was scared and, vulnerable at the time. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it just because I'm scared, because I don't know what these people are capable of, especially in Jamaica as well. Like, if I say no, you're gonna kill me, kind of thing, you know. Oh, so yeah, that was. I'm feeling angry at the moment. Like, it's just almost like, how could you even allow that and think that was okay? I'm talking to myself, you know. But anyway, it happened, and it even from that day, I made a vow. Let's just say that I made a vow to never treat women like that, and that's when I kind of, formed an interest properly with the same sex. So anyway, fast forward, coming back to the UK, came back, started like high school in year 8, and again, my curious nature kind of like grew, and it grew to the point where I wasn't experimenting. I would try and experiment, um, but at the same time, it was within me, that because I didn't want to be seen as lesbian, or I didn't want to be seen as that. Like, if anything, I wanted to be seen as mandem, a part of the mandem. You know, it was not until I got into well, it's not until I left school and started college that's when I really started to like really explore. So I explored that lifestyle online. It started with this website called Downlink. I found many black LGBT individuals on Downlink, and I was like, whoa, like there's a whole world of black women that are like me, and but before that, I would also explore other sites such as like, I don't know if you guys are old school like me, but Black Chat. It was just an online chat where you didn't have like profile pictures. It was just chat. You could just make up any name, and just go into the chat rooms, and speak to many different people. You don't know what they look like, what they sound like. You're just speaking to people, right? So I was doing that, and I was on MSN. I'd take people's BB pins, and like, it was just basically an era full of like chat, just like how we've got now. Like we've got like WhatsApp and social, all these different social media platforms, pretty much like that back in the day when I was heavily invested in talking to women. So to the point where it took over me. I'd come home from college and I'd be on the internet, and like I created like fake profiles as well. I was living a double life basically. I created a profile. I created a fake profile as a guy, and I was living as that guy. Basically catfishing. I catfished many women. Till this day, some of them don't know. Um, and you know, to the point where I started to even kind of like, if I take these people's numbers, I'd call them in the nighttime, specifically when my voice was deep, and then I'd try and force my voice to break. You know, and I wanted to so desperately to play that male role, like to the point where I'd fall in love with these women, like that I've never met, or I'd arrange to meet up with them, and like, I would go and meet that person, but they wouldn't recognize me because I've used a different picture than my profile. So it's almost like spying and stalking. Like, it even disgusts me right now, even thinking about it. But it was just this deep desire rooted in me to be a boy, like, and I feel like maybe my womanhood, shall I say, or yeah, my girlhood was stolen from me from a young age. Like now that I think about it, it's like, yes, I got a chance to, just be a kid, which was great, but something was stolen from me at that point. I'm sorry, guys. It always gets me emotional talking about it because you knew that one situation would have costed me almost my whole life of being confused, just not understanding who I am, conflicting identity issues. It's not a joke. It's a real thing, you know. Um, anyway, my dress sense started to change quite drastically. I was very much a tomboy from young anyway. I didn't really like wearing tight things because I was so self-conscious about my feminine figure, and just yeah, that kind of stuff. And I think I'm not too sure when it was, but as I was living as this guy, um, I think it must have been about a year or two that I was living this double life to the point where I even roped my family members into it, which is so disgusting. Just yeah, I wrote my family members into it, like, feeling no shame. Um, just the point because I didn't want to hide anymore. I just wanted to be free and speak to these women around them without having to go to my bedroom all the time. So I'd let them know this is the lifestyle, this is what I'm doing. And even though it would be brushed off as a joke sometimes, it was damaging. Anyway, I met someone that I genuinely fell in love with. I said genuine. I fell in love with, right? Through that catfishing process. And it was like eating me alive to know that she felt, and very deeply about me as well. And I was just like, I have to tell this girl, like, she deserves to know the truth. Like, I cannot go on, playing this character. Every time I go to meet her, it's not me she's looking for somebody else that I created online. Um, and then eventually I told her. I thought she would have like split up with me, but if anything, we met each other. And I guess we just carried on. You know, she forgave me. We carried on into the relationship, like, and that was my first love. Um, so yeah, we built a relationship from then onwards, and that's when I started to really now experiment. So that's when experimentation came through. Um, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like, feelings were just like feelings of like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy. Like, I never thought I would ever be in this position, like, and it became so intense for me. It's almost like I became a little bit possessed by those feelings. And then I was hurt, you know, as what usually happens. I was hurt, you know, um, by her actions later on. And then, I started to explore a little bit more, and that's when like gay clubs started to thrive. Like, I used to go to a lot of gay raves. I found like a bunch of like, I was living in Wolverhampton at the time. Found a bunch of people who were experimenting with their sexuality as well in the community, and I would just yeah, we it's like we formed a little clique. We used to go from house party to house party. It was about that lifestyle, getting drunk, like, smoking weed, like, you know, um, playing it like I got bare money. I was, a narcissist, like, everything boiled into one. Like, I just thought I was God's gift from heaven. And then status as well started to kind of like, puff me up in a way, like, because I became quite known from like putting on parties, like house parties, myself being hosts of them. Like, really just bringing the community together, like even putting on like, live music and poetry events. Like, I placed myself at the center of the community, where I started to have an influence at that point, you know. And I met many women through the status that I built. I met many women through the community. I was very, very promiscuous. Like, again, like I said, I thought I was God's gift from heaven. And there was this deep urge within me for them to treat me like a man. Deep, deep urge. So at that point, I started to kind of like, really look at people who were transitioning, because I had met my first friend, my first transgender friend. And it's like, yo, how did this work? Like, and obviously that at that point he was like, I'm not even gonna direct you to where I get my stuff from, because you know what I mean? Obviously it's illegal. And I was so grateful at that point for that, to be fair, even though I was just like, why, man? Like, it is what it is. But I didn't really think things through thoroughly, because if I had started taking testosterone at that point, yeah, that would have been me starting from a young age. That was around what, 19, 18, 19. So yeah, I'm glad that he didn't even, give me details for those resources. But I was always envious of him, because, he was living as a guy, looked as a guy, looked like a guy, and like, acted like a guy, behaved like one. And I was just like, wow, like, this is how I feel. And that it automatically I felt some sort of relatability between me and him. So, I started to strap my chest down at the time, with like scarf. So it appeared like I had a flat chest, wearing a lot of bucket hats and baggy clothes, like baggy t-shirts to really disguise my femininity to again appear as much as a guy as possible. I hated the word lesbian. I hated the word stud. I hated the word all these words that represents sexuality. I hated them. Um, you know, I even hated the word transgender as well before I started transitioning because I was like, what is this madness, Anyway, I I got into it properly. Um, and I met another trans friend, and even though it wasn't bothering me as much, I was still doing research here and there of how to begin that process. Subconsciously I was planting all these things in my mind, and obviously like I didn't realize that later on down the line it would actually have an effect on me to the point where I decided to transition. Because like I said, there was a great desire in me to treat women from the beginning, to treat women the way the way I wasn't treated, basically. That makes sense. You guys know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, like the experimentation, became addictive for me. Like it was almost like I was just counting numbers. What's your body count kind of thing. I was just sleeping with as many people as I wanted to. And most of all, I was in a lot of relationships. I've hurt a lot of people. Um, so anyway, carrying on the journey, because I was so promiscuous, I became very obnoxious um, about my character. Very obnoxious to other people, like just again, just a narcissist, man. Um, so I kind of went. I think I got baptized. I can't remember. My first love, she had passed away. Sometime in 2000. I can't remember. I think it was 2013 or something. She passed away. And I was hurt. I was deeply hurt, deeply, deeply hurt. And that's when life kind of took a turn for me. I was always seeking emotional support from women. So I'd get into a lot of relationships or situationships, where I felt like I was protected and honored by another woman, um, and treated respectfully as a stud trying to be a man. Like I said, I wanted to run away from all these labels. And I just thought to myself one day, I was like, you know what, it'll be easier if I transition, because then people would then treat me like a man, and then I wouldn't have to worry. I can get married to a woman, and then I wouldn't have to worry. And then, I can have all these operations and I can just operate as a man, and I wouldn't have to worry. Like, I wouldn't have to, I was just so, I just didn't want to be seen as a woman. Um, all these thoughts started to manifest in my mind, and then it just came to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna make my life easier because I feel tormented. Being a lesbian wasn't enough. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I wanted to aspire to. I just felt like I wouldn't be able to socialize in the world because of this barrier. And to me, it was a barrier because I'm constantly fighting to be accepted as someone who's was a lesbian. Anyway, so I made the decision to transition, and that was just so deep for me because I before that I got baptized first time round, um, and I didn't know why I got baptized. I just felt like a part of me was people pleasing. So I just did it. I just got dipped under the water without truth, without knowledge of the truth. I was just like, okay, cool, whatever. Got dipped, and I tried to do the walk. I don't know what the walk was, if I'm honest. I tried to do the walk, but yeah, I was still living a double lifestyle. I was still in a relationship with with my ex. I was still doing the things that were in opposition to God. I was still living a sinful life. So I got fed up. I never saw no transformation at that point, and I was like, you know what, forget it. You know, and I decided to transition at that point, change my name over to Stefan, and all these different things. And, I was just, I was just like, yeah, maybe this is a rebirth of something new. Like maybe this is the direction that God wanted me to go. Like, guys, I was messed up, man. I was so messed up. Um, so it was like a weight off my shoulders. It was like a breath of fresh air. Now I'm like, yes, I'm living my authentic, true self, and blah blah blah. Then I started to document the transition. And things happened so quick. And it came to a point where I was like, again, because I was documenting, I was very much out there in the open, in the media. Like, I did a documentary as well, where I went to Jamaica and I announced my decision to be a man over there. And then it caused my whole family to just be like, what is going on? And because I wasn't receiving the acceptance that I wanted from family and from certain friends and all these things, I was like, what is going on? All I wanted to feel was love. Like I just wanted to I wanted to feel loved by them, accepted by them. I was craving for that acceptance. So it went from, me feeling super uncomfortable about my assigned gender at birth to me feeling super uncomfortable about not being accepted, like within the people within the family that I loved so much, and I was just like, why can't people understand? That's because I was losing my mind. I was actually losing my mind. Like, as much as I put on a brave face from time to time, like it was torment. It was mental torment. I would try my hardest to act like everything was okay, but it was mental torment. And I'll break it down to you. When I mean mental torment, I mean that the wait to even start testosterone, the wait to even have surgery, top surgery, bottom surgery, all sorts of surgeries, the consistent letters, the consistent prescriptions, the consistent in and out of hospital just to double check everything is okay, the constant therapy sessions, not just having gender therapy sessions, but having, psychological therapy sessions, and it, again, even down to using like, public restrooms, like, you're halfway between your transition, say 6 months in, you can't figure out whether to use the male toilets or the female toilets, and you don't want to use the female toilets because you don't get triggered. People misgendering you at the time, obviously of transition, and you're adamant that people need to address you as a certain, as your certain gender, and then, then the media kind of flooding you with, all these questions, and people flooding you with all these questions for support, and it was torment. And this is me being raw and honest with everyone now. It was torture. Like, it was like I was constantly fighting for a place in this world where I felt accepted, to the point where I'm like, well, maybe I can feel accepted in the LGBT community, and I want to make you guys my family, which I did. There was a level of support at that, during that time, but it wasn't for long. It wasn't for long, because why? Because everybody's trying to find their way, and amongst finding their way, everyone's bumping heads. So, I felt rejected by the lesbian community, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're just looking for attention, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna have to form a trans community, like, support union within the trans community. And then even with that community, you start to judge one another because that person does not look manly enough, or is not passing, or the war became real. Real. Then I was just like, you know what? Forget it. You know what I'm interested in? I just want to be known as Stefan the filmmaker. I don't want to be acknowledged as transgender. I don't want to be acknowledged as female. I don't want to be acknowledged as none of this, blah, blah, blah. Even now, so thinking about non-binary terms, I was like, none of it makes sense to me anymore. Like, this is just confusing to me, like, personally. So I was like, I wanted to completely be cut off from that community and live as a heterosexual male in a heterosexual relationship. And that's what I did. And then when I decided to, try and live that life, bearing in mind, guys, I skipped quite a lot as well, like a big chunk, but I'm just kind of like giving you enough in the short space of time. So yeah, I enjoyed this heterosexual relationship for what, 2 years? I think it was about 2 years. And I so badly wanted to just escape from the world, so I would escape into her, you know. And this was again my last relationship, so I'd escape into her because, she made me feel like a heterosexual male, and then there was times where I felt like I wasn't seen as that, and there was times where I was just like, very insecure because, just loads of things that happened within that relationship that made me feel like this isn't the path for you. Like, legit, my identity, I just didn't fit in. Like, even to have conversations with biological males, a simple thing like, how they wear their boxers, that would trigger me because I'm like, well, I'm not stuffing anything down there. So the way I wear my boxers is the way that you'd wear panty. I'm sorry to be so raw, but it would trigger me because it's like, again, that realization that you will never be a biological male. And that's where I was aiming to get to. But something told me last year, because I put myself on a waiting list to have bottom surgery. Something told me to get yourself off that waiting list, because if I'm going to be in and out of hospital for the rest of my life, and it's going to take me a good 5 years to have the full loaded bottom surgery. Bottom surgery meaning like, having, a piece basically taken from your arm, a graft from your arm or your leg, your thigh, your stomach, whatever, to basically then mold into a phallus. So you can stand to pee, so you can have, penetratable sex and that kind of thing. Like, yes, I thought about it. I was more concerned about getting rid of my breasts. But I did put myself on a waiting list for lower surgery as well. But again, because it's like everything, like a can of worms opened last year for me. Can of worms opens when I realized that, this is, there's been a conflict with my identity for a long, long, long time now. What is going on? Why do I not feel accepted? Why do I not feel like loved? Why am I not seen for who I want to be seen as? Like, why is this so hard? Like, I didn't get it. So I said, you know what? I'm happy with how I am. I don't want to do anything else to my body. I don't want to continue mutilating it. So therefore, I'm not doing lower surgery. I am so glad I made that decision. Like, I don't think you understand how real the pain was. I'm so glad I made that decision not to have lower surgery. Who knows where I would have been today? Who knows where I would have been? I made some stupid decisions in my life. Stupid decisions that have caused so much pain to myself and so much pain to other people, that I feel sometimes very unworthy to even be accepted by God. Very unworthy. Because at the end of the day, sin is, it's something that our nature and our flesh can't resist. It's beautiful on the outside. When you devour it, it's bitter. And there's consequences as well. And I swear, I'm happy with the consequences that I'm suffering with right now, which is the scars. Top surgery, I'm grateful for this point here, but I don't know where I would have been if I decided to have lower surgery. I put my business out there now, guys. You guys know I ain't got lower surgery. But even when I look in the mirror, sometimes I look at myself like completely naked. I'm like, this looks so awkward. Like, I've always felt like that. It looks awkward anyway. So, this thing took over my life. Like, it took over my life. It was like a big beast growing within me, and I'm like, I can't even control it anymore, and I don't know whether to turn left or turn right. Yeah. So when God placed certain people in my life, and when God started to place disciples in my life, like, there was a big orchestration going on. I remember this time last year, I encountered a spiritual experience, like a deep, profound spiritual experience that shook me from the ends of the earth. I will explain that in another video, but that spiritual experience forced me to wake up out of the deception that was on there, forced me to wake up. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to have this experience if, people are feeling, conflicted within their identity. I'm saying that I know something happened to me this time last year, spiritually, that messed me up, like physically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and it was like, what is going on? Again, I couldn't put my finger on it, neither could the doctors. I was hospitalized in London because of it. I couldn't put my finger on it. They couldn't find what was happening. I was in absolute agony. Agony after a certain experience that happened in London. Anyway, long story short, here I am today. I'm so grateful for the mercy of God. I'm so grateful for His grace. I'm so grateful for His kingdom. I'm so grateful. Do you think I got time to think about depression? I may feel a little bit like, some type of way sometimes, like, there's weeping in my heart for people who are in dark places. But I'm like, there's hope. There's hope for everyone. Everyone, even though some people may not make it, there's still hope for everybody. Mate, listen, if God decided to take me out the mess that I created for myself and the sin that Satan held me captive to, God can do anything, immeasurable things for people, immeasurable, and if you are someone who's struggling right now, talk, open your mouth and talk. The reason why I say talk is because the worst place to live is in the darkness with your struggles swept under the carpet, man. It's the worst place to be. I know what it feels like to want to take your life. I know what it feels like to, think that you're a man. I know what it feels like to just be conflicted in your identity, whether that be, your gender identity, your sexual identity, or we all want an identity. It's like this identity upholds us. But the only identity that upholds us and gives us eternal life is a Christ-like identity, because, our feelings like change from time to time, throughout the day. Who knows how many feelings I have? I don't know. But God's word is stable. It's never changed. It never will change. It will be the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. It is, it is what it is. And like I said, I'm so grateful that I've been redeemed, because I've never felt love like this before. Like I had an idea of what love supposed to feel like, or what love, supposed to look like by the representations of romantic situations that happen in the world. But that's nothing. That's not love. That's just people reacting off how they feel at that time. This love isn't a feeling. This love is like, yo, God orchestrated this moment for me. This was planned out from before I was even born. This was a plan. So why am I trying to destroy the master's creation? Me, I have to embrace who I am, who God created me to be, because He said it was good. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Why am I destroying the creator's work? That's like me debunking art. People take their time out to produce a movie. People take their time out to paint. People take their time out to express their creativity. And if someone, turns around and kind of like basically dashes a whole bucket of paint over the paint out, over the canvas that you've just painted, you're gonna be vexed. I'm gonna take my anger out on you. You know what I mean? I just spent how much time creating this, and you've decided to just mess it up. What are you doing? Do you know what I mean? But instead, God showed me love throughout the times where I was mutilating my body. He still showed me love. Enough for Him to save me. Save me from my own mess. Why? Because I was blinded. I'm not gonna be cliche and say now I see, but I said it now anyway, so now I see. No, no, for real. I was blinded, guys, like, like, I was wearing goggles. I couldn't see out of them goggles. Them goggles were foggy. Foggy, 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 foggy. And this is why I'm like, I have a big thorn that will not allow me to fall away. And I'm happy I've got that thorn there. Because, again, I was radical for Satan. I have to be radical for Jesus now. Because at the end of the day, I've seen life. He's given me another chance to see life. I'm walking towards that tree of life now, right? That was planted in the garden next to the tree of the knowledge of good knowledge of good and evil. Mate, I'm going for the tree of life, 100%. Like, I'm so grateful for Jesus. I'm so grateful for what he's done. Like, so grateful. Now I truly know the meaning of what it means to be saved. And even though we work out our salvation with fear and trembling every day, I know the true meaning of what it means to be saved. And for me to doubt God's word now, I'm just being super disrespectful. I'm not trusting a word that has never changed, that don't make any sense. I have to trust God's word because my thoughts change every single day. And guys, like I said, if you're struggling, talk to somebody. Yo, you know my Instagram, message me. If you've got thoughts in your mind and questions that, need to be answered, holler me. Like, I promise I will be there for anyone who's probably come from the situation that I've been in, or like similar situations, even if your situation's not similar, but you just want to talk. Shout me, guys, and this is me being genuine with you, because at the end of the day, I don't expect anyone to be alone, with their thoughts, because it's a dangerous place to be, and this is a dangerous world, man. Satan really has the whole world deceived, and even if you think you're not deceived, you're deceived. If you're not holding on to God's truth, you are deceived. Just remember that. You're not holding on to God's truth. You don't know the word, you're deceived. Straight up, it is what it is. We want to gratify the flesh because the sin looks so good, feels so good, tastes so good. But what happens in the end, you're going to face the consequences, which is eternity in hell. Confused by your own thoughts, trying to understand and figure out what even got you here in the first place. Well, I'm telling you, the truth is written on everybody's hearts. You know what's right from what's wrong. But we become desensitized to what's righteous. And now we're gratifying what's wrong. So guys, do me a favor and just plug out the matrix. If you don't, amen. If you do, amen. Just really think about life, man. Just think about where you're going. Think about why you're here. Think about your purpose. And anyway, guys, that's it from me. 40-minute video, 38:23. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, great rest of the month. And I will speak to you, or I'll see you in my next video. Peace.